Welcome everybody to another edition of WCW 2004 here in TEW 2020. And it's time for a big pay-per-view as it's the Fall Brawl 2004 live from the TD Boston Garden in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts at the end of September. And it's time for the big start of the show. We've got a basically sold out crowd of 19,000 people in the Boston Garden as we move forward. Start out with our opening video, which is just basically focusing on the big, basically things of the show, which includes, Joanie, Laurer, and Gail Kim, the big four-way number one contendership match, Sean O'Hara versus Eddy Guerrero for the title, and of course, Rob Van Dam's big match versus Booker being placed versus Toro because of his injury. Let's get to 75. Fairly decent opening video as we move on to our first match. That opening match is Teddy Hart challenging for the Cruiserweight title versus Elix Skipper. Of course, Elix Skipper has had a fairly dominant run so far since winning the title back in, I believe, May, through the end of through the summer and the fall. And, basically he said he had cleaned out the division, but in a big Cruiserweight scramble, basically, in the week before the pay-per-view, Teddy Hart won the opportunity to take on Skipper for the title. And this is just like both men going crazy. Like, this is, it's Teddy Hart 2004, so of course he's going to do just crazy dives all over. Skipper tries to slow things down a bit, but of course he's still Skipper, the guy who did the cage walk in real life, so he does his own, lots of high-flying maneuvers, just basically watch any Skipper match from this period, or frankly, any Teddy Hart ROH match, and, there's not a psychology here, honestly. There's sentons, springboard clotheslines, wacky moves, moonsault to the outsides, big springboard Frankensteiners, near falls off of, Teddy Hart goes for the open heart, goes for a big, 630 moonsault to the outside, throws Elix Skipper in, almost gets a pinfall victory, but Teddy, but Elix, kicks out. Elix takes backs over with a little bit of field work and slows down things just a bit, and tries to use some suplexes and big slams to control the match, but Teddy Hart fights back and eventually tosses Elix to the outside. And this is where Teddy makes his fatal mistake. As he goes outside, climbs up to the top rope with Elix sort of back on the guardrail, and he goes for just an insane triple flip, insane, just stupid dive. Stupid dive / moonsault. And Elix gets out of the way at the last possible second, and Teddy Hart basically crunches himself on the guardrail / barrier. And he just, it's immediate to everybody in the crowd that Teddy Hart is done. Elix cockily grabs cockily grabs over and picks up Teddy Hart by his dreadlocks. 2004, we didn't know any better. Throws Teddy in, hits him with the overdrive. 1, 2, 3. Defense number 5 is his Cruiserweight Championship. So yeah, as we look at the match itself, Elix Skipper gets the win in 10 minutes, makes defense number 5. Overall, the match itself got a 65, which isn't too bad considering these guys, aren't super over. I mean, Teddy's actually decently over, but I haven't really pushed him much most of this year in his tag team. Teddy gets a 60, Elix Skipper gets a 55, and as you know, Teddy Hart took a crazy bump during this match, so that probably helped with the match a bit, and yeah, then he died for our sins. But he got injured, so that's good for the future. But a big win for Elix Skipper as he holds the title, celebrating with style, basically yelling to the crowd that nobody can stop him as this gets a 50. But again, we're slowly getting Elix Skipper more over. A big win for the Cruiserweight Champion as we move forward. And we have a pretty big match, even though it's second here on the card, as Rey Mysterio takes on the challenge of Mike Awesome. Of course, Awesome and Ray Jr. are sort of circling each other, especially after, Eddy Guerrero beat Awesome last month, and that, involved then Awesome trying to, go after anybody when he was helping out Booker, and when Ray Mysterio Jr. started helping RVD, that meant Awesome went after Ray Jr., and then this match was basically made. But yeah, that's pretty simple. It's not the most complicated storyline, which is sort of what's down here or on the card, but, it's two pretty over people in what should be a pretty solid match here. And it is actually a pretty solid match. As basically what happens here early is, Awesome just throws her on Ray. Ray just, I don't want to say he just, he just destroys Rey Mysterio earlier. But eventually Ray fights back because he's Ray fucking Mysterio. And, I imagine, Awesome going for the Awesome Bomb, but Ray getting out of it first with Sunset Flip, and then, Awesome goes for like goes for his like big throw, like he threw Spike Digley 8 zillion times in ECW, but Ray Jr. slips out and like dives off and actually sends Mike Awesome to the outside, and he hits a big dive. Awesome sets up a table, but Ray actually sends Ray Awesome through it with a sunset flip powerbomb. I think this is late enough to do it, and eventually Awesome like basically goes for a big move one more time. Ray's able to look at quickly roll him a victory roll. That's not enough. That's enough to Awesome to get set in position. 619, springboard hurricanrana. 1, 2, 3. A huge victory for Rey Jr. over Mike Awesome in about 10 minutes or so. So then as we look at the actual match, so yeah, like I said, Ray Jr. gets the win in 10 minutes. This gets a 74, which is sort of disappointing if you look at Awesome getting 84 and Awesome, Ray Jr. getting an 84 and Awesome getting an 81. But unfortunately, looking over the dirt sheet, looks like what happened here is Ray Jr. had a poor gimmick, which I probably need to fix at some point, and Awesome had inconsistency. Also, because he was upset, I predicted Awesome, so that's probably... Oh, I gave Awesome the dominate note. So, that was why I tried to match busy Awesome, just killing him early. So, but still, a big win for Ray Jr. over the giant, big man Mike Awesome of the Triumvirate. And afterwards, Ray Jr., basically, he gets the pin. Ray Jr. knows better. He slides out, and he, celebrates with the crowd here in Boston, Massachusetts, to a 74. So a big win for Ray Jr. as we move forward here on the show. And it's time for a big grudge match here, as, of course, for the past couple months, AJ Styles has been successful in singles competition. Getting a U.S. title shot, being in big singles matches, but eventually, Air Paris tried to get him to get a tag title shot, but they failed there. But it looked like the team was okay. But then, of course, when AJ Styles looked like he was going to win the U.S. title, Air Paris got involved, ruined things, and now one of the most successful teams in WCW since its reboot is now at each other's throats. And, Air Paris basically says, he was his real talent. AJ's, just sort of upset his friend turned on him. And this is a pretty good match. Honestly, okay. Truth here, there's, not enough pictures of, Air Paris is actually, because I, watched some old Wild Side stuff with him, and he's actually a pretty decent, it's, stats are here, true, he has, no mic skills, but it's an indie high-flying guy in 2001. I'm not so shocked. But unfortunately, the truth is, he can be a good part of the Cruiserweight scene, but what happens here is what would probably happen in real life. Paris gets his heel shots in, he gets a big fisherman buster, maybe hits some sort of gets a close pin, but eventually AJ Styles just takes this over, and he just runs over. He hits a big dive on Air Paris, hits the moonsault DDT, lines him up, picks him up, boom, Styles clash. 1, 2, 3 for a definite victory, and honestly, an end to the feud here, as he gets a big win over his former tag partner, and honestly, Paris, have fun in the Cruiserweight division, as long as you can have good matches. But still, a solid win for AJ here on Fall Brawl, as he moves on to possibly bigger and better things in his career here in WCW. And yeah, looking at the actual match, the actual match was a 75, which I'm actually shocked was that good. As AJ gets a 73, Air Paris gets a 62, which again, for a guy who's going to be pushed in the mid card, that's not too great. But for a guy's part of a Cruiserweight division, he can be a perfectly solid top Cruiserweight heel, for the next bit. So here, Air Paris, low morale, okay, all out. Basically, yeah. This was just these guys throwing bombs at each other, and it says Spiral Tap, but he's not hitting the Spiral Tap for basically this mid card feud. He hit Styles Clash, 1, 2, 3, big victory for AJ, and then post match he celebrates to a 73. As he moves on, like I said, do further, better things in his career. And that next match we have coming out is a big United States title match between the current U.S. champion, Yoshihiro Tajiri, and Palumbo. Of course, Linden is sort of a surprise challenger here, as, Tajiri has been pretty successful here as U.S. champion, but Eric Bischoff decided to, basically, give a bunch of people a shot in Perez and Cordelis matches, and Paul London teaming with Lance Storm of Triumvirate managed to get the win, as the other teams basically couldn't stay together at all. And then in the big match on Revolution, Paul London got the win over Lance Storm to win the shot at the title. So now it's, up to London to try to sort of pull up the big upset victory, as of course he has not had, he actually, lost in three-way versus Skipper for the Cruiserweight title, but he's now here for the title. And this is a very solid match, as both these guys are very good competitors, and because it's a face versus face match, they actually, do it well. And they just, like, this is Paul London both in kayfabe and both out of kayfabe, like, going for it. And it's Paul London 2004. So, you know, he's ready to just do whatever to get over and, in kayfabe, get the win. But Tajiri's still Tajiri. So he is ready to just kick the hell out of London. And hit him with big moves, big, like, exploder suplexes, kicks, keeps him down, submission holds, go over, hits the tarantula, but London has to get out of it. But of course, London, takes a big bump off to the outside. I imagine him going for a big dive to the outside, but Tajiri gets out of the way. That allows Tajiri to take over, and then actually, hits him with the big bust out kick, come for the brainbuster, but London just gets out of it, rolls through for a near fall, but, no dice. And then we get to our finishing sequence where just, these guys just, throwing big forearms at each other. Paul London gets the advantage. He's able to hit imagine it like a big aside moonsault. Then hits another, like, sort of like standing moonsault. Picks Tajiri up, goes for the backbreaker, but, like, Tajiri fights out of it. I imagine, like, Tajiri actually going for the mist, but missing as London is ready for it. London then hits a run on him, goes up top. Not Frankensteiner. Shooting star press, London calling. 1, 2, 3. Paul London has won the WCW United States title, and a huge victory for him. So yeah, looking at the actual match, they had to steal the show. 12:43, big win for Paul London. 77 overall. London gets a 74, Tajiri gets a 74. And yeah, just a solid win. And, like, yeah, I mean, this was, I wouldn't say in my plan, because I initially had another plan for the US title, but I figured this would be actually pretty fun to do. And I sort of have been under pushing London the past couple months, just because, like, I didn't have a good storyline, but I've actually figured something out for him, at least for the through the next couple months, which should be interesting, and possibly do more fun stuff as we head to the new year. But big win for here, and then he celebrates with the title to a 63. But yeah, honestly, I mean, he did win the tag title with Jason Jett, and he had that big, aerial. I mean, there's a question this might be his biggest win in WCW in his WCW career so far, but I mean, honestly, it's without a doubt his biggest singles win so far, as he's now the United States champion. And for our next match, which is going to be Rob Van Dam versus Jonathan Toro, surprisingly, Booker's T's music hits, and he comes out to join the announcer's decks as he replaces Jerry Laurer for the match. As this gets 70, as he just comes down with Sharmell. And of course, the next match coming up is Rob Van Dam taking on Jonathan Toro in a bit of an impromptu match, as of course it was originally set up to RVD versus Booker to sort of blow off their feud, which has been going on since Booker turned heel on Rob Van Dam at the start of the year, off and on. But, the week before the pay-per-view, Booker T got injured, had to pull out, so, Eric Bischoff promised suitable replacement, and Toro came out to take the match. And now it's honestly Jonathan Toro's biggest match in his WCW career so far, trying to get the victory over Rob Van Dam, who's been on, I wouldn't say a roll, but he's been very competitive here so far this year, and is looking for bigger and better things, including getting revenge on Jonathan Toro, getting revenge on Booker T in the end. So the actual match is these, like, for what you would call and basically what happens here is RVD carries Toro to a pretty great match. As basically Rob Van Dam just, like, at first, like, sort of, like, runs over Toro, but Toro eventually takes control because Sharmell comes out and distracts RVD just long enough for Toro to get a cheap shot, and then it's, like, big, solid power moves, like big suplex, big power slam, big lariat, another, like, wheelbarrow suplex, then just, like, Toro, like, trading, like, right hands with Rob Van Dam, actually taking advantage, and Toro hitting a big side suplex, the match going to the outside, and Toro actually throwing Van Dam over the barricade, but Rob Van Dam coming out with a springboard to the outside, yelling at Booker, but that's just enough distraction for Toro to take the advantage again. Toro sends Rob Van Dam into the steps, and then just, like, works on RVD in the ring for a little bit, and RVD, like, tries to fight back, but, Toro shows his actual skills as just, like, beating down on Rob Van Dam. But eventually, what happens is, like, Toro actually hits the big, I imagine, setup is probably, like, I would say, like, a fall away slam, like Scott Hall's old move, and then Rob Van Dam slowly gets up, and Toro is ready for his, like, roaring elbow finisher that I've given him, but Rob Van Dam ducks under, sends Toro to, like, ducks under it, is able to hit a big, one of his savant, karate kicks, spinning kicks, goes back on the offense, hits the Rolling Thunder without the chair, and then it looks like, but Toro gets one last heel shot in, hits a big DDT, and is going to go for another Roaring Elbow, but this time Rob Van Dam avoids it, hits a huge side suplex, picks him up again. Charmel actually gets on to try to distract him, but that actually gives RVD time to hit the Van Daminator, and then RVD goes up top, frog splash, 5-star, 1, 2, 3, a huge victory for Rob Van Dam over Jonathan Toro, but Jonathan Toro showed, he's not no slouch either here. And the reason why I actually made that match better than you would think is it got a freaking 87. Like, wow. Like, RVD got a 92, which is honestly great, but Toro still got a 72, which I'm just going to see. Was there anything? Toro, star quality, good momentum, high morale, high quality, hot crowd, I guess. And yeah, Booker T wasn't great, but honestly, I'll take the ratings to continue the storyline. And also, yeah, I had Charmel distract because Booker can't distract because that's not considered an angle. Honestly, Booker T came down in his wheelchair with Charmel. That was the gimmick. But a huge win as, again, 1140 pin. It says Van Terminator, but again, this is not going to happen in this match. Van Dam gets a 92 and Toro gets a 72. And then post-match, RVD celebrates, points at Booker as that gets a 76 as we move forward to our next big match of the evening. And that match is a big rematch from last month as Gail Kim gets her chance at redemption to take on Joanie Laurer for the WCW Women's Championship. And here's the thing. Gail Kim is a great wrestler. She's been, you could argue she's been the most successful woman here in WCW so far since the women's division was rebooted. But the problem is against, Joanie Laurer, just, you could call her a genetic freak. But, what she is a great competitor, a great, athlete. Maybe not the best wrestler move for move, but she's just a powerhouse. And she's just a presence. And the problem is, Gail Kim's great, but if you make one mistake, Joanie Laurer is going to make you pay for it. And what happens here is, basically throughout the match, Gail Kim, basically plays, stick and move, butterfly, bee, all that fun stuff. And she's, hitting her. She's making, she's hurting Laurer. But every time it looks like she's going to, get the big win, she either hesitates or she just takes long enough to hit the next move that Laurer is ready for and just throws her around. And then it's just domination from there. But eventually, Laurer goes for the powerbomb about midway through the match. But Gail Kim actually reverses it into a Rana and then takes advantage. But, she's taken, of course, lots of hits already. So she's a little slow going for the eat defeat. And when she dives off for it, Joanie Laurer's ready for it, picks her up, tilt-to-wear power slam. And from there, it's really all she wrote, as Laurer just throws Gail Kim around, picks her up, boom, powerbomb, 1, 2, 3, nowhere for Gail Kim to go. But it takes her, Gail Kim, survives 10 minutes this time, but it's a huge victory for Joanie Laurer as she gets another defense of the women's world title. And yeah, this got an 81, which I'll have to double check what the last match was, but yeah, it's the storyline here is Gail Kim's a great wrestler, but Joanie Laurer is Joanie Laurer. And 10 minutes, 81. Joanie gets a 92. Again, if you want to understand why I'm pushing her, there you go. Gail Kim gets a 64. Start from enough selling shown. It's China. What can you do? But yeah, just a big victory for Laurer as she defends the title. And then post-match, celebrates with the title to a 73. So, a big win for Joanie Laurer. As referees, as the announcers openly speculate, who will even have a chance to take her on at, who will even have a chance to, just take her on, putting over some competitors in the War Games, but, saying, can anybody really face her off one-on-one and take the title off her anytime soon? As we move on to our next match. Well, at least we were scheduled for our next match, but what happens is Monty Brown comes down with Stevie Ray, and he takes the mic, and says, I promised you all that I would be asking you for real competition. I don't care what next match is next. I want somebody who can make me break a sweat here in WCW, because all throughout so far, nobody has. I've run through everybody without thinking about it for a damn minute. So I want somebody who will actually risk something to take me on right now, to take me out. And, Brown just sort of walks across, I'm forgetting the word here, okay, he just basically paces around the ring, stalking, I don't want to say, a wild animal because that's sort of, and but paces around like a caged animal waiting to strike, and then boom. Okay, I can't do the music. Boom, 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 boom. Huge pop as Bill Goldberg comes down to the ring, and on this over, we haven't seen Goldberg in a couple months since he got basically beaten down by Jamie Noble, but it seems he has been recovered and is back and ready to take a face off against Monty Brown. And he just walks down to the ring, gets in the ring, and basically steps right up to Monty Brown and basically says, "You want to go? You want to go? We can go right now." Brown says he's ready to go right now, but before they can even like go after each other, a ton of WCW officials, including Eric Bischoff, come out and basically stand between them. Bischoff says, "We got to make this match official. We got to sell this match, guys." And Brown's like Brown tosses a couple, road agents / backstage guys. Goldberg tries to go after Jaws Adam, saying, "You're next," and Bischoff tries to calm both men down. But it appears that Monty Brown now has a challenge here in WCW, and it's the man, Bill Goldberg. And yeah, the actual angle only got an 80 because, they both didn't do without a script follow, which honestly I probably should have added, but what can you do? What can you do? And honestly, that probably makes sense because these guys would just be wild yelling at each other. But a huge moment as Monty Brown, who has been undefeated here in WCW so far and just ran over people, including, pretty big stars, is now going to has the challenge of the man, Bill Goldberg, who had a streak before he had a streak. So, it's like I'm setting something up for the future. I wonder when this match will happen. Anyway, now we move on to our next actual match now. And that next match is Jeff Hardy versus Jamie Noble. Of course, Jamie Noble first, beating Eddie Guerrero, saying he took out Bill Goldberg. Wanted his next challenge to be somebody else who he thought was standing in his way to get up to the top in WCW. Of course, that man was Jeff Hardy. And they've been feuding off and on for the past, month or so, including Jeff Hardy, getting wrecked by Ebony Sable, Jamie Noble's bodyguard. But now Jeff Hardy gets back in the ring, Jamie Noble ready to take him on. And honestly, this is a really good match. It's, Jamie Noble trying to take out Hardy high flying ability, because of course that's what you would do. Trying to lock him on, trying to ruin his knees, going after his legs, lots of leg holds, takedowns. But Hardy's, fights back. He, brawls, hits a big clothesline, hits a whisper in the wing, all his big moves. But Noble tries to fight back and hits a big, sort of swinging DDT, locks Hardy in several holds, but Hardy is always able to fight out. And eventually, Ebony Sable, does eventually get involved and, is able to, after Noble tosses him outside, Sable is able to hit him with a few big moves on the outside for rolling him back in. But, Noble is actually hits not a step, the little, sit-down pile driver, and then goes for a quick pin, but Hardy kicks out at 2.9. So Noble gets a little bit upset, tries to lock in the trailer hitch, but Hardy fights out of it. And, again, Noble then goes for his own big man, cruiser power offense, going for a big, tiger bomb. But Hardy hits a Frankensteiner out of it. Then, whisper in the wind, twist of fate out of it. Ebony Sable comes under fear. Hardy hits him with a big drop kick, goes up top. Swanton bomb. 1, 2, 3. Big victory for Jeff Hardy over Jamie Noble. And yeah, overall, Jeff Hardy gets a 1239 by pinfall Swanton Bomb. Ebony Sable gets involved. Overall match gets a 75. Noble got an 84. Hardy got an 89. Problem with this match is, unfortunately, inconsistency and crowd had low heat. Storyline had low heat because Noble is entertaining, but he's not quite over. I had Ebony involved in the match, which probably would have been the best decision. But again, Hardy gets a big win and, moves forward as, a top babyface-ish. And post-match, like I said, Hardy celebrates to a 68. And Noble now has to sort of, lick his wounds, and figure out what his next step will be here in World Championship Wrestling. So we get a commercial, which basically, sets up the War Games match. Probably a little video, but I'm not including because that's part of the setup. But then, crowd pops as, it's the referee announces that due to a pre-match coin flip, Team Dumas has the advantage because this is War Games. The heels always win the coin toss unless you're TNA or other dumb indie feds. But so first comes out Tricia Skye. to a big pop from the crowd as the announcers put over, of course, Tricia is the most accomplished wrestler of Team Skye, so she is going to go through this match no matter what and try to get the big victory. And then comes out. No, wait, sorry. I got that backwards. First comes out Lizzie Dumas as part of Lizzie Dumas, and just put over, Liz, of course, have been trying, sort of avoiding Tricia Skye since she first attracted Tricia a few months ago at Bash at the Beach. But now it looks like Tricia will finally get her shot as Tricia comes down to the ring. But as Tricia is coming down to the ring, as basically at the entrance, out of nowhere, Angel Fox actually attacks Tricia and rolls her in the ring and begins beating her down. And Lizzie basically goes to the ref that actually Angel is the first woman in, and the match starts as Lizzie Dumas has, again, avoided one-on-one confrontation with Tricia Skye one more time. So setting up the Women's War Games match as this gets a 70. And now we're on to the actual match. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I just looked at what the final result was, and it's kind of what I expected. But again, it's pointless to have your first Women's War Games match and then basically put it at the bottom of the card. So I put this up here. There's obviously more matches, so this is going to sink the show. But it's not the best match because lots of unover people, still building everything up. But I wanted to do this to set this up because this is sort of where everything has been building for the past few months since Tricia and Lizzie showed up and made their alliances. But anyway, on to the actual match. So, of course, Angel got the advantage on Trish first because that's what happens in matches. But eventually, near the end of the first 5-minute period, Angel actually, Tricia makes the babyface comeback and is beginning to get her revenge on Angel Fox when the buzzer rings and out comes Lexi James to make it a 2-on-1 advantage, as these two have been teaming up in the past couple months since coming under Lizzie Dumas' leadership. And it's just a 2-on-1, just a complete, Larry DDT, Angel Snap, just beating her down for 2 minutes until, as the crowd pops, of all people, the newcomer, Roni Jonah, actually comes out. And the announcers openly question whether it was a good idea for the baby for Team Skye, but as Jerry Larson points out, she's new. But Tony Joanie actually points out, if she's in here late, she might make a mistake early on that'll give the heel. So better, that she has, and she also has less damage because she's relatively new. So she might have, more ability to take damage throughout the match. But regardless, Roni comes in House of Fire, brawling with Lexi as that gives enough, with Angel as that gives enough time for Tricia to recover. And it's basically, a tornado tag as both men fight. But, as we're going on, it's basically it's an even advantage as Tricia just is throwing Lexi around, but Angel is actually building up, actually has the advantage on Roni. And it looks like Tricia and Roni are about to fight again when the buzzer rings and the third woman comes in. And no, it's still not Lizzie Dumas. It's Wisina Busick, part of European Disunion, and she goes right after Roni Jonah, just attacking her and trying to take her down with submission moves. Tricia Skye tries to make the save, but she's battered and thrown around by both Angel Fox and Lexi James, including a big double brainbuster, totally laying out Tricia, who has to sort of roll outside of the ring. And it was it's just going to be a complete 3-on-1 beatdown when the buzzer rings again. Out comes Celine Cartier, and she just comes in and she's a complete house of fire. As youngsters quickly refer back to her more hardcore background compared to other women's wrestlers, and she's just a firehouse spark plug of fire, just big forearms, big super suplexes, and she's able to take out all three women to a big pop from the crowd before they're slowly beginning to recover. But then Roni is able to fight back with her, and then finally Tricia recovers and basically dives onto the heels from behind with a big crossbody, and it's a 6-way brawl again before the buzzer rings. And out comes Nikita Colt, the former women's champion with ice in her veins, and of course the actress put over the fact that Lizzie Dumas has avoided being in this match until the very end. And then it's Nikita Colt, another submission, not specialist, but focus on it. So she's again going after Roni Jonah, as announcers openly, put over the fact that that Team Dumas here is trying to just beat Jonah down. So when the final part of the War Games match begins, she's just beat to hell. But Tricia comes in for the save. Celine Cartier tries to come in for the save. But still, it doesn't look great for the heels, for the baby faces, as it's 4-on-3. But then the bell rings, and out comes Jordyn Cole to a decent pop from the crowd, and she just again continues to be fighting, big babyface stuff, big lariats, big punches. Hits a actual dive on, hits a springboard dive from one ring to the other onto a group of heel women to save Roni Jonah, and her House of Fire's tactics are enough to get the babyface win, as Tricia actually hits her Sky's the Limit on first Wasina, then Lexi, and then avoids the angel shot from Angel and takes her out with the chip kick. So the heels are basically all down. When the buzzer rings again, out comes Lizzie Dumas to be the final competitor, and of course she tries to avoid, she basically does the heel run around the ring tactic before getting in, and actually going after another part of the face team, still avoiding Tricia as the heels go after Tricia to try to keep her down. Roni is still basically out on against one of the turnbuckles, but Celine and Jordyn are actually a very good team, so they take the fight to Angel and Lexi, and those two teams are just fighting basically at two parts of the ring. Roni's out, Tricia's trying to go after Lizzie, and then the final buzzer rings, and out comes Nattie Neidhart, another young member of the team, as it's it's now announced that'll take now time for submit and surrender. But the reality is, there's not much time after Submit or Surrender when the final bell rings. Because actually, I lied. It's a 3-minute segment, not a 5-minute segment on in real life. Just because honestly, I didn't figure out the time right. I just want to double check this. So. Yeah, basically the brawl is on immediately, but what actually happens is Celine Cartier is just Tricia actually finally gets her hands on Lizzie and hits the Sky's the Limit and is beating her down, but the other heels eventually dogpile her. But that leaves Wasina Busick separated in the ring, and that allows Celine Cartier to just go after her and just batter her with forearms and slams and punches and kicks right in the middle, and eventually Celine picks her up, and with nobody really around her because the other people are all fighting, they'll hit her huge Emerald Frozen right in the ring, and then lock Wasina Busick right in the ring in sort of a choke, sleeper guillotine type of hold. I probably described that badly. And with nowhere to go, and with nobody saving her, even though it looks like Cartier took a bad bump on the actual Emerald Frozen, with nowhere to go, not Lexi James, sorry, Wasina Busick has to surrender, giving the huge win to Team Skye. So yeah, overall, this gets a 58, which I sort of expected. Honestly, I was afraid this was going to totally bomb and get a 44 or something dumb like that, but still, 58 isn't bad. As we had Tricia with a 75, Roni Jonah with a 35, Nattie with a 34, Jordyn Cole with a 48, Celine Cartier with a 59, Wasina Busick with a 48, Nikki Colt with a 60, Lizzie Dumas with a 68, Lexi James with a 55, Angel Fox with a 52. Let's see here. Lizzie and Tricia looked excellent. Was there anything else that really hurt the match? Let's see here. Holding back, inconsistency, holding back momentum, fatigue. So nothing huge. But yeah, a big win. And yeah, I gave Celine the win basically for storyline reasons, which will become more clear in the next upcoming weeks. And post-match, yes, I know, Cartier has so much damage kneecap. That's unfortunate. Cartier's holding her knee as she raises her hand, and the rest of the babyfaces celebrate as the heels slink away as the just put over a huge victory in the first Women's War Games match for Team Skye. As Skye and actually Tricia and Jordyn hold Cartier up on their shoulders as Cartier raises her hand in victory as the crowd pops, as this gets a 66. Actually, a pretty good angle, considering. As of now, we're really moving on to our last couple of huge matches. So, this is a pretty straightforward tag title match. AMW got involved in the little feud with Eddy, and eventually, prior, with basically, AMW got involved eventually, first when Booker and Eddy were feuding, for the not Booker, Eddy. God, now I'm forgetting my own booking. Anyway, AEW got a title shot. I think they just basically like attacked Wright and Chavo at some point and basically asked for it, and then basically putting up their own talents and abilities, and basically now basically challenge Wright and Chavo. See, this is what happens when you don't book regularly. You totally forget some of your angles. Anyway, the actual match was set up, and now just whatever Wright and Chavo may not have a team name or matching tags or anything, but they're still a very good team together. And they show that hitting lots of double team moves. But AEW, have been one of the better teams in WCW since their rise to the top, and one could argue, one of the best, with Air Raid no longer being a team. And they do they do some heel attacks, but also they do a lot of brawling, fighting. Wright and Chavo have to fight back on their own. But basically, this quickly becomes your very basic tag team match. Not to say as a bad thing, but just basically put it over as what it was. Wright and Paris and Storm work over Chavo. Chavo plays babyface. Eventually makes a hot tag to Wright. Wright gets the big babyface comeback, but then Wright gets beat down as the babyface in peril. And in the end, Chavo gets a fine hot tag. It breaks down to a 4-way, but eventually Chavo just picks up Chris Harris. Boom, brainbuster. 1, 2, 3. Right in the middle of the ring, and a huge victory for Chavo, Guerrero, and Alex Wright as they retain the WCW World Tag Team titles. So a solid match here. Let's get to 75. I was kind of expecting something a little better because of Wright and Chavo's skills and the honestly the tag bonuses for each. But unfortunately, I want to just see if there was anything, or I just didn't like. Okay, and low heat so low heat sort of killed things, but honestly, 73 for Chris Harris, 76 for James Storm, Wright with an 84. Chavo with a 76, so averaging things out, let's see here, so 75. They'll probably only lost like a point or two. This would probably maybe been like a 78 or 79 with a higher heat, but still, a pretty solid match there. I'm actually disappointed. This is still a solid win for Wright and Chavo, as they get the big pinfall victory. But, they're celebrating when all of a sudden, the lights go out, which is never a good sign. And then the same scratchy voice we've been hearing for the past couple weeks, it says, the message is here. Lights come on, and it's Macias and Morningstar, and they proceed to destroy Wright and Chavo. Wright and Chavo are ready to fight as the lights come back on, but it's Macias and Morningstar, two of the most dominant people in WCW recently. So, Macias just tosses Wright to the outside, and that allows Chavo to be on 2-on-1. Eventually, Macias hits him with the Cruiserweight powerbomb. Wright comes in for the save, actually with one of the titles, but Morningstar is ready for him from behind, and then he eats the Cruiserweight powerbomb, and then Macias and Morningstar just walk away. As Morningstar says to the camera, the message has been delivered. 82, good angle, and yeah, Macias and Morningstar are back after being gone for a couple months. Basically, didn't have a spot for them, and I needed a way to set them up for this new angle, and here we are. So the message, it seems, is they want the WCW World Tag Team Championships. Big moment here as this gets an 82 and sets up, the next big feud for the tag division. But now it's time for our final huge matches of the night. And the first of those huge matches is, of course, the 4-way number 1 contenders match. JC will get the next shot as a WCW World Championship. And, Palumbo, Helms, Jarrett, and Kidman all made basically calls for why they deserve to be the next number 1 contendership. Eric Bischoff's like, okay, fine, fight over it. And now they've been, fighting involving Eddy and Shadow Heron also, and holding on stablemates and all that fun stuff. But now it'll be determined who will become the next number 1 contendership match. And first few minutes of this, the match is basically, everybody, fighting 1-on-1 for a moment, but eventually the heels are like, oh wait, we have a 3-on-1 advantage, so they go after Palumbo. Palumbo fights valiantly, actually hitting big moves as, Palumbo's still a big, burly, brawling guy, and Helms maybe, a sneaky SOB, but he still gives away to Palumbo, so he gets tosses around. Kidman tries to come out, but, Palumbo nails him with a big lariat. But that allows Jarrett to come behind, and then there's a brawl between Palumbo and Jarrett, and Jarrett's more on equal footing. Of course, Jarrett is a former multi-time world champion, and we try not to talk about that because Russo. But eventually, it looks like, but then, of course, what you think happens as when times actually pin Palumbo, everybody wants the shot, and eventually they start fighting, which allows Palumbo to recover. So now we get a fun middle of the match where basically it's heels dealing heels to each other, so the crowd still gets a pop, but it's still the heel taking it, so low blows, eye scratches, 2-on-1s. Then basically what happens is, like, first it's a 2-on-1 Kidman on Helms on Jarrett, but then Kidman turns on Helms, which allows Jarrett to come in, go on Helms, but then Jarrett turns on Kidman. So back and forth, and eventually it's like it's going to be a big, early on, Kidman actually tosses Jarrett out, and Helms misses a super kick, and Kidman hits the Kid Crusher on Helms, but Palumbo rolls in, breaks up the pin, pulls Kidman out and starts fighting with him. Jarrett comes in and tries to hit the stroke on a still injured, beat down Helms, but Helms nails Kidman with a super kick out of nowhere, but isn't able to get the pinfall victory. Helms then dives on Jarrett and Palumbo, tries to roll in Palumbo, but Palumbo is ready for him, and actually hits a big, nasty sort of head and arm suplex, which sends Helms to the outside. Jarrett and Palumbo brawl, and Palumbo looks like he's going to hit the full throttle type move on him, but Jarrett gets out, goes for the stroke, but Palumbo kicks out at basically 2.9. Palumbo, that allows Jarrett to go out for the guitar, which would be legal in this four-way, but then as Jarrett's going for the guitar, Helms actually comes in and attacks him from behind, because of course he doesn't want him to get the advantage, and then Helms rolls in the ring ready to fight, but unfortunately you forget Jarrett Palumbo's Palumbo, and Shane Helms is Shane Helms, so Helms goes after him, and is successful at first, but Palumbo takes control of the match. Big power slam, big lariat, picks him up, full throttle, when out of nowhere, Shane Helms pulls Palumbo out of the ring, drills him with a super kick on the outside, then comes in, nails Kidman, who's slowly, sorry, my bad. So the whole thing, okay, so my bad, I forgot the booking I was doing here. So yeah, actually what happens here is Palumbo hits a full throttle on Helms, like I said. What happens is Jarrett pulls Palumbo out. They start fighting. Kidman comes in to try to get the advantage on Helms again, but Palumbo knocks him out with a big super kick. But then Palumbo, having thrown Jarrett out, knocks Helms to the outside, pulls on top, pulling him to the outside. Kidman is slowly getting up. Palumbo's ready for him. Big sort of Palumbo actually hits his own super kick, going back to his jungle kick, picks him up, full throttle, but then he turns around right into a huge super kick out of nowhere from Shane Helms, and Palumbo basically goes to the stumbles to the outside. Kidman is slowly getting up, and then Helms comes off the far corner and drills Kidman in the back of the neck, with a sort of reverse Shining Wizard. Kidman is down. Helms rolls him over. 1, 2, 3. Shane Helms has won the number 1 contendership. And yeah, big victory. 85. Great fucking match. Jarrett gets an 87. Kidman gets an 88. Helms gets an 83. Palumbo gets an 83 as well. Was there anything basically bad about this match? Let's just check out. Jarrett's low morale, Kidman's inconsistency, but that's about it. So, a huge victory for Shane Helms, as he uses advantage in the four-way match to become the number 1 contender. And post-match, of course, he celebrates to the boos of the crowd to a 67. And yeah, now it's time for our main event. As first, Eddy comes out to the, to a mixed pop from, basically 90% heels, but there's still some diehard Eddy fans, basically, smart fans 2004, who is like, oh, why is WCW pushing this muscle-head Yoshihiro over the group? It's like Eddy, but this isn't quite Cena levels of hate, but I mean, it would be happening by this point because of the internet and everything else. But he's still Eddy, so he's good enough to get mostly heel reaction. And then Jonah comes out to basically an overwhelming babyface reaction, and then it's time for our main event: O'Haire Guerrero World Championship. And basically what happens here is the match starts out, and actually O'Haire is the one as the House of Fire. And he, tosses Eddy around. He uses the power advantage. Early on, he actually hits this big power slam lariat combo, but Eddy basically, immediately does some heel attacks to take advantage, and goes after O'Hare's knees and his legs, and tries to beat that down. Keeps O'Hare down on the mat to the boost of the crowd, as Eddy knows if he does lots of high impact offense, he'll actually get to pick some babyface reaction. So he needs to keep things not exactly slow, but slowed down. But O'Hare fights back, uses some power moves. Match eventually spills to the outside. Guardrail, steps. No chairs. Announcing table is safe, but O'Hare does take does get basically thrown over it by Eddy. But the match comes back down to the ring. Eddy has taken the advantage, but O'Hare powers out. Eddy actually goes for his 3 amigos, but O'Hare powers out of it and hits his own big suplex, hits a big boot, picks him up, sort of like a wheelbarrow powerbomb, and then hits a huge lariat and goes for the Widowmaker. But Eddy, openly rakes his eyes, hits him with a, and then throws him, hits a quick double arm DDT, and takes advantage again, locks him in a modified lasso from El Paso, but O'Hare is too close to the ropes, and the fight is over again. And eventually, as the fight is brought to the outside, what happened was a chair was about to use, but O'Hare basically grabbed it off him and tossed it off to the side, and that's now basically on the side of the ring. Brawl. The fight continues as O'Hare fights out of it, and basically O'Hare charges after Eddy in the corner. Eddy pulls ref in the way. Ref takes a bump, but that doesn't stop Eddy, as Eddy actually grabs the belt, but O'Hare's ready for him and actually ducks under it, hits him with a huge belly to back suplex, nails him with a lariat, and then picks him up, Widowmaker, but a la Brock in real life, Eddy rakes his eyes and turns it into a DDT right on the chair. Pushes the chair out of the ring, goes up top, frog splash, ref recovers, 1, 2, 3, no! Kick out at 2.9. Crowd pops huge. Eddy's very upset. He yells at the ref. And then he basically goes up fine. Basically shrugs his shoulder, goes fine, picks up O'Hare, barely, brainbuster. And then he goes up top, but took a lot out of him to hit the brainbuster. Frog splash, no. O'Hare gets his knees up at the last second as crowd pops, and both men are down. Ref gets up to 8, but slowly, both men get up. Big throwing Bob segment. Eddy looks like he actually has the advantage after hitting a huge Blue Thunder bomb to a pop from the crowd, because that's still impressive. But it takes too much out of him that by the time he's going up to the top, O'Hare is ready for him. He grabs him, hits a few big moves. Then O'Hare goes up top with Eddy, and then huge superplex. Shakes the ring. Power slam, lariat. Picks him up, Widowmaker. 1, 2, 3. Sean O'Hare retains. So, overall, match gets a 93. Eddy gets a 91. O'Hare gets an 84. But a huge victory for Sean O'Hare here. Let's see here. Was there anything? No, that's just what the match was. Great. And then post-match, O'Hare celebrates with the title to the cheers of the crowd, as this gets an 81. And overall, the show itself gets an 88. Okay, honestly, kind of disappointed, but I didn't have, I had 2 great matches. I did not have that third great. Oh, I had a third great match, but it was at the bottom of the card because I didn't expect it would be that good. But sort of a middle of the card, honestly, I was hoping Ray Jr. and Austin was going to be low to mid 80s. And I was kind of secretly hoping that, where would it be? Honestly, I was also kind of hoping for Wright and Chavo and A&W to secretly be in the low 80s as well. But what can you do? Stuff happens. Anyway, who am I putting over here? Okay, actually, just sort of as a gimmick, let's give Tricia Skye and Lizzie Dumas for a good performance because they were in the Women's War Games, and then let's give Eddy for a great performance. And let's see what happens for the news, and then a little announcement at the end of the show, at the end of the video, then that'll be that. So let's just see what pops up here. Survey says, and of course, like during the next video, I'll go over the normal news that's happened, and then the rest of the week. But let's just see here if there's anything really wacky here. Okay, Fall Brawl is Fall Brawl. Nothing too odd. News, okay. Neidhart needs, I mean, yeah, that's fair. Skye 1, okay, need to do that for Skye 1. Booker's back from his in. See, that's the thing I was upset about, is Booker's basically back tomorrow. And if you think that's not going to be an angle, you're wrong. And he deal is expired, so I'll have to remember that. And now the 10 network deal is expired. Okay. And now just as a quick check, let's go over like the overness of people who were involved in the big stuff. So, first, Elix. Elix, my friend. Are you now a little more over? Please. Please. I mean, okay. I mean, and since he's won the title, he's actually been slowly. It's not as over as I want it to be. What else happened? God, now I'm blanking on any like huge over. Did Jamie get hurt by losing? Let's see, he was at 74. Nope. Okay, not at all hurt. Did Jeff get helped at all? A little bit, I think. Let's see here. Any other big matches of note? Let me just pick up something random like Nattie, because she wasn't over at all. Let's see if that helped her. So before, okay, so before she was at a, no, only if my would make sense because it's a War Games. Okay, did Celine actually get a big boost out of winning at War Games? I mean, a couple points isn't bad, not bad at all. But now to the big matches. Okay, so I mean, usually like big shift when somebody a lot less over beats somebody more over. Which actually, let's say Ray Jr. Okay, Ray Jr. actually got decently over by beating Awesome, which I'm glad about. Then Awesome, did he get really hurt by that loss? Not really. Okay, cool. So Ray Jr. is actually back where he should be. Did Van Dam get any more over by winning that great match? He got a point out of things. And did Toro get hurt at all, really? I hope not. No. Oh, wow. Actually, he's now actually kind of a bona fide, like, upper mid-carder. Great. Which is good for what I'm playing for him. And now for sort of like the big matches. Okay, so Palumbo, I mean, he's not quite super over, but he's still really over. Jarrett, my friend, where are you? Jarrett, okay, again, Jarrett's actually more over. And who's, right, and Kidman actually took the pin, so. Nope, not really. And then is Shane Helms a lot more over now? I hope so. Oof. I mean, no. Okay. I might be dealing with a pop cap here, which is going to be interesting. I mean, right now he's toned. Yeah, I don't know how much more he can get, because, yeah. I mean, let me just, like, here, let me, okay. Cool. He might not be a Cruiserweight anymore after this. And then for the last two matches, okay, so Eddy was at, okay, he lost a little bit, but he actually gained and lost in overness, which is interesting. And then Sean O'Hare, buddy. Oof. Okay, O'Hare might actually have hit pop cap, unfortunately. Like, maybe. Is there anything I can do for him? Let's see here. Head shave, book, heels, increase my size. Yeah, no, like, yeah, nope. Lifestyle, in-ring, booking. Yeah, nope, that's just unfortunate. Anyway, so. Yeah, I mean, again, if we look at our creative, top 5, Goldberg, Rob Van Dam, Eddy, Hardy, Ray. I mean, sort of who you expect. And who's hot is, again, Jarrett, O'Hare, Van Dam, Storm, Awesome. So, you know, sort of who you'd expect. Anyway, be back with more thing, which, if you know what time of the year it is, you should not be too surprised, but I'll be back in just a second with that. So, every year, as part of the pay-per-view calendar, is the Mayhem Tournament. Of course, after the last 2 years, to set things up for for the future. And last year what I did was I set up basically a prediction contest for people to follow along and make their predictions, and then there's various prizes people got as a result of where they placed in the tournament. And I'm going to do this again this year. I'll include a link to the page and the website where you can sign in. And how it works is, basically there's an increasing for every round. So the first round is 1 point per match. So, obviously, you pick who you want, and then, you pick who you want in the second round, and you pick one in the quarterfinals. And then one final thing is the semifinals. It doesn't matter who you pick to win the match, as long as, it matters who you pick to win the overall tournament, who you put as the finals, or who lost in the semifinals doesn't matter, since, of course, the finals is a 4-man ladder match. But it is important, you pick who you... So, okay, let me just go over this. So how you actually do it, and I'll go over the... Well, actually, no, I'll go over the prizes right now. So, as what happened last year, as long as I get 5 predictions, there will be 3 prizes. Those prizes are, if you get first place, you get a match at the January pay-per-view of your choice outside of the world title main event, a wrestler brought up from DevFed, a dev signing of your choice, and again, I'll give people options in the year-end video, or as part of the Mayhem preview of who's available out there, a dev release of your choice. So again, I'll go over the dev roster, and if you want me somebody to release somebody, I'll release somebody off of my roster, and 1 push and D-push of wrestlers on the roster. And again, this doesn't mean somebody will lose all their matches and be complete job. For example, one of the people who won last year chose Canyon as the person they D-pushed. And honestly, as you see, Canyon was not completely off the roster, but he wasn't a big part of the overall main event scene. He was just sort of there, and he did lots of jobs. And again, and honestly, the push, that does not mean somebody becomes a world title contender. Somebody chose, I believe, Elix for push, and he got a long Cruiserweight title right now. He's not a top guy, but he's also not a total jobber anymore. And again, for second place, you get a title match of your choice at a Nitro, and that can even be a world title match. Now, of course, as you see here, I'm not giving people control over who wins or loses. Again, a push and a D-push of a roster, and a dev signing of your choice. And finally, third place is a match at a Nitro of your choice, and also a dev signing of your choice. And again, I'll go over people who are available as far as dev signings on the overall roster. Again, if there's any conflicts, for example, somebody in second place picks somebody to push, and somebody in first place picks somebody to D-push, the person who finishes higher gets the choice, and then second place and third place, get going there. And same thing if it happens, I'll be asking for a list of possible dev signings, just so I can move on to your second choice, third choice, etc. But again, as a bonus, if I get 10 predictions or more, there'll also be a random drawing from everybody who put in prediction to win, and they'll also have a chance to get a match of Nitro of their choice. And then also, what I'm also going to choose is that as a part of the random drawing and this is very kind of special, is you get to release 1 person off the in-game WWE roster. Now, there will be a bit of a limit to this. For example, any current champions, or honestly, if you pick something completely wacky, I'm not going to let you do it, but within reason, because of course, around this time there were actually some weird releases. So maybe in this timeline, wrestler X is the one who gets just fed up with WWE instead of instead of Brock Lesnar or something like that. But again, that's only if I get 10 predictions. If I get 5, as long as we get enough predictions for finishes, these will be it. But otherwise, no. And just to run through actually how you create a prediction. So again, you go into the link, which again I'll include in the actual main part of the description and anywhere I post this. So you go to the website, you click on create a prediction, it loads up, and then you do your drag and drop. So this person, 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 and you just go down it all. And AJ. So yeah, obviously you should be more orthodox to this than I am. But yeah. And then once you have your final four, it doesn't matter who you put as the winner. And I'm just going to do this for comedy's sake, you know. It doesn't matter who you put as the person who loses in the finals, because that doesn't make any points. As long as you have the right people in the semifinals, then you go down, select your tournament winner, and then you put in your prediction title. And here's something important. Now, it asks for your email address. You can put in a junk email address if you don't feel comfortable sharing your email address, as long as you share either a Reddit name or some other way to contact you. Twitter, Reddit, whatever. Now, obviously, you can also just create a junk email, from an email, or you can just put your email if you're comfortable with that. But I know some people are weird about that. If your name is, Bob's Burgers on Reddit, put that in. That's great. But again, put your email, put a Twitter name, just something in the title so I know who the hell you are in case you win. Or if you just want to put, prediction and then put your email address, whatever. Whatever. And I'm probably going to get it some junk mail because I have my actual email address on here for a second. Oh, well, roll it in. Anyway, so yeah, go to the link, sign that up, and then there you go. Again, a decent amount of people signed up last year, and I think it was actually pretty entertaining to see what people chose. And just sort of like as a sort of like, I don't say like as a spoiler, but again, think about what would be interesting as stories in the tournament. It is not going to be chalk. There will be some people in the final match at Mayhem that you don't expect, but also don't pick any, like, if you pick, say, and again, this is bad, but I'm not really pushing anymore, and people know this. If you push Blitzstreak to the finals, you're probably not going to do great. But, other people, like, I would say, honestly, again, I've obviously already booked it, but there's 20-odd people who, if you put this 24, who you put in the final four, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, at least in my initial booking. Because again, at the end, it only matters sort of who wins as far as my future booking. Everything else is to set up, future matches and feuds. But again, this took a little while to explain, but I did want to put it through. So again, link will be in the description. But that is it for now, folks. Next up will be Nitro as we start the road to Halloween Havoc. And I guess I'll just do this now, pre-booking, as it is set up. Halloween Havoc. Main event. Jonah Hair. Shane Helms. World title. Let's go. That's it for now. So if you enjoyed the show, go ahead and give it a like. Comment below where you're liking and not enjoying. And of course, lots of TEW 2020 content on this channel. But, that's all for now. So talk to you later, and adios. Have a good one.